All right, it's time for that conversation. We will now talk about peer mediation, especially with a critical look at schools and how helping students to resolve conflicts, and not just resolve them, but in a peaceful way. My two guests this morning, seated closer to me, I have Pamela Tuti. She is a lawyer as well as a chartered mediator. And on my far end, I have James Magerere. He is a mediation trainer. Thank you so much for both of you for being here this morning. Pamela, let me begin with you. Help us understand, and our audience understand at large, what peer mediation is.
Okay, thank you very much. Peer mediation is a situation where contemporaries or people on the same level try to sort out the problems that they're facing. And this is done through a neutral party who is called the mediator. This neutral party will help the parties that are in conflict to try and understand and evaluate what is causing a conflict between them, and therefore will guide the parties to reach an agreement between themselves to sort their problem. The mediator does not give them a solution, but guides them to try and get to the bottom of the conflict. And between them, they reach an agreement as to what they think is best for them in every situation.
Right.
The best thing about it is that at the end of the day it's a win-win situation, because each party feels they have had their day, they have been given time to air out their grievances, and that the other party has also appreciated their position.
All right. James, how does peer mediation work? Especially in this case where we want to look specifically at schools, given the recent fires that we've been seeing within our high schools.
Now, just to add on, in peer mediation, students are trained very early in communication skills, listening skills, and in problem-solving skills. Students are able to resolve their conflict without consulting, every time reporting it to their teachers. In fact, what teachers do is to coordinate the process and supervise it. Now, when students are able to resolve their own conflicts, most of these issues like bullying, issues that you hear these days of suicide, arson, those issues will come under control. Because when students' problems are not solved, they are frustrated, and with that accumulated anger, they resort to issues that are destructive.
Right.
You know, that's the most urgent response to any conflict is destructive. It's fight. You know, we have only two responses to conflict: fight and flight. If they can't take off from school, they fight, and the process of fighting, the most appropriate and nearest way of fighting is committing arson or pulling other students.
So what are some of the disputes that are suitable for peer mediation that you can say, okay, so this one, I can see peer mediation happening. So what are some that are suitable and some that are not suitable?
Well, teasing, those disputes that are suitable are disputes like teasing, pulling, name-calling, issues like transit. Now, students, there are some students who feel that probably they are not appreciated by others. There are some expectations that they do have. But when we come to disputes like drug abuse, assault, those disputes have to be reported to the teacher. It's for now for the teacher to decide whether the dispute is good enough for mediation or the dispute should be referred to disciplinary action. All
right, Pamela, so you had described mediation as a third party coming in, a neutral third party. Who can this third party be? Can a teacher, can a fellow student act upon that role of being a mediator? Or does it have to be someone of profession, such as you, a lawyer?
What happens in the case of schools, students are trained to be mediators, and not every student, because there are those students that the teachers will identify as suitable to be trained as mediators. These are the students that will help other fellow students to mediate when there are conflicts. And normally the mediator will be a few years older than the others. Let's say maybe 19-year-old mediator who is mediating in a conflict of 15-year-olds or 14-year-olds. We also, in such a situation, the teachers are also trained as mediators, because there are those conflicts that the students among themselves will not be able to solve. So the teachers will step in. So they're also taught this mediation process. And the goodness is that once the teachers understand this process, it becomes easier even for them to continue the in-training of other students and making other students understand what this process is all about. The goodness is that because it's peer-to-peer, they are able to speak candidly. They are able to open up and discuss their problems openly without fear. And therefore, it forestalls any accumulation of issues that will lead now to a blown conflict.
All right.
Yes.
But what are some of those benefits? Could you spell out some of those benefits that mediation can do for a school in itself? Before we come to specifically maybe teachers and slash staff and the students, but what mediation, the benefits that a school has? Okay.
Research that has been carried out on the benefits of peer mediation, it's not started now. It started many years ago in 1960s. And we have a lot of countries that have embraced peer mediation in schools. Among them is Finland. We also have Scotland and South Africa, and this has really worked a lot. Now, what happens is that it brings back that harmony, the social aspect in the school, where the students feel like they belong, they feel like they are understood, they feel like they are part of that society. And that, at the end of the day, translates to better performance. It translates to oneness, feeling like, yes, we are part of this community, we are appreciated. It also translates to higher performance and grades. And at the end of the day, the values and the principles that come through this process are embraced by everybody. And at the end, it also translates to having better people, better leaders in future, and also meaning at the end of the day, it's a better community or a better country, because the conflicts that would have been allowed to blow up were curtailed, and now these students understand what it means to be more responsible and to be greater leaders, because they understand how to solve their problems in good time.
All right, James, could you add to that perhaps also the benefits?
Now, a school environment, first of all, to be productive, needs to be a place that is friendly.
Right.
It should not be a place which is prone to conflict. Young people have a desire for peace, and therefore, these are people who want an environment where they can concentrate on their main core business, and their core business is studying. So if every time students are being engaged in something different from studying, it makes the environment hostile, then that will affect even students' productivity. That's why you find students failing, a very bright student failing, because the school environment is prone to conflict. So the benefit of peer mediation is that, first of all, we make the school environment friendly, we make students productive, and when they come back, because we have inculcated the culture of dispute resolution in school environment, they bring it home. And that's why you'll be surprised the student mediators come home and resolve issues between their own parents and their own siblings, and they make homes good environments.
But do you think because of the reason, if you talk to some of the students, as I have, when it comes to starting fires, is that they say the teachers don't want to listen to them, they have a lot of pressure coming from exam season, and then probably your parents are not nearby, because most of them are boarding schools. So the aspect in itself, school environment is not friendly. I'm glad you gave the example of South Africa and Finland. If you look at those schools, the environment, the fact that they are school friendly allows for mediation to happen, allows for students, staff and teachers to have that healthy relationship. So do you think that it's also needed here in Kenya, before we even throw mediation to the table, perhaps the school environment in itself, which you've said, is it friendly?
What we didn't even add is that close to us here in Ethiopia, we have the program running. So it's not far away. It has been tested. And the good thing is that in Kenya itself, Mediation Training Institute East Africa has a complete package program for training students in schools to be able to learn and inculcate the culture. We have the manual, we have a full program of teaching teachers who can be able to supervise the students. We have a 3-day program to train students during weekends. First of all, what we have done in other schools is that we have trained prefects first. Because then once we train prefects, they become mediators. If they, probably the problem we have been having is that some students view prefect to be hostile.
So if I, as a parent, as a student, seek to learn, that means I can do it right now. Like when right now schools, majority of schools are closed.
If you want that program now, we can offer it tomorrow. We have packaged it. We have student manuals, students' workbooks, videos, and everything. It's just for some schools have already embraced it. Some 2 private schools have embraced it. We have trained students and graduated some student mediators, and the process is working very well. All
right, let's take to this same issue of information and how much is available outside there. Yes. I'm glad Pamela had touched on the issue of where you find a lot of young people can be trained to become mediators. Yes. But where does that information come from? Is it as easy as just going to Google and learning it for myself? Is that information available, readily available out there?
Information is readily available. And we, as I told you, we have a manual which we sometimes distribute to schools free. And any school that is willing can look at that manual. There is a lot of information. We have been doing research for the last 15 years to bring about peer mediation in this country. So all that information is available upon request. Any school that is interested, especially even the Ministry of Education, that's what I've been asking most, that the Ministry of Education should take this into account. Instead of us putting out the fires, we should prevent the fires from being put on in the first place.
I mean, I've seen you've come with 2 books. Are some of these books something I could personally get to help me?
These books are very important because even when we train mediators elsewhere, we tell them to become conflict competent. Conflict competence, means being able to respond to conflicts constructively. So even if you are a good mediator and you are not conflict competent, then that's where the problem becomes. Because some mediators are trained, but within a very short time, because they have not embraced conflict competence, you find them getting out of place completely. They are making statements, some of them which are questionable, because they are not conflict competent.
And Pamela, what are some of those hindrances, those walls that do not allow mediation, especially within schools, to be effective?
One of them would be especially where the teachers do not understand this concept of mediation. Because the teachers would feel like their powers are being curtailed when it comes to discipline and doing what they know best to bring discipline back to school. So the teachers need to understand this concept of mediation and what it does. Because at the end of the day, mediation, unlike other forms of conflict resolution, allows everybody to participate, allows everybody to speak, allows everybody at the end of the day to walk out of that room feeling, yes, this has been done the right way, I am satisfied, and this conflict is over, this conflict is finished, and I'm happy. And they go out, they shake hands, and they're very happy. Now, if teachers do not understand this concept, they will still try to mix it up with other forms of dispute resolution that they are used to. And that will not work because the students will still feel like there's this figure that I fear. I am complying because of fear. I'm not complying because I have accepted there is a problem and I've accepted I need to change the situation.
Right.
Yes.
And what about the aspect where you find that a mediator who is supposed to be neutral is compromised? Okay.
In that case, a competent mediator should immediately just withdraw from the conflict. And that is one thing that MTI, the Institute, will help mediators as we continue training them, as they continue going for refresher courses. They continue discussing among themselves. And that way, through that discussion, one realizes, I've been making a mistake this way, or I've been compromised, or by doing this, I get compromised, and therefore they change. Like in any profession, all doesn't work perfectly. Not everybody is perfect. And therefore, I think that is where even the the institute comes in and makes sure that they monitor the mediators that they have trained to ensure that they keep on track.
All right. James, because of time, I'll let you have the last say. Now,
if just I can comment on the standards that you have talked about. The Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators is a body that has set up standards. The membership of this body, members who are mediators who are members of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators will be governed. There is a very strong code of conduct. In fact, we have set up ourselves up in such a way that anybody who wants a credible mediator will simply, there is one-stop shop. That's the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, where mediators who have been trained and certified by Mediation Training Institute East Africa, International East Africa, there are standards that we keep. We're international mediators. We only don't train for local institutions. We train for international market. So any investor coming from outside there will definitely, who wants to look for a mediator in this East and Central Africa, will definitely come to the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, where we have very high standards of mediators in this country. And now, I think people can be comfortable. Previously, we didn't have such kind of an institute, so anybody could call themselves a mediator and would almost get in trouble.
Okay, now, so that helps resolve any compromised mediators.
Yeah. There's no more compromised mediators because our code of conduct is very strict.
All right. Thank you so much for both of you. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for helping us how schools can adapt mediation to make sure they are safer for our students and even our staff and teachers. I was speaking earlier to Pamela Tutui, who is a lawyer as well as a chartered mediator, and on my far end, James Mangerere. He is a mediation trainer on the aspects of how we can make sure our schools are safe and helping our students and staff resolve conflict in schools. Thank you so much for your time and for tuning into Weekend Express. My name is Zinzi Kibiku. Stay with KTN News at 11 a.m. Sunday edition. The mornings political show led by Ben Kitili will be starting in about an hour's time, and I'll see you again at 1 a.m. for a quick update of stories making headlines then. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.